good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Remember, context is everything. This is John Michael Monroy with Context is Everything Media Network, coming to you with episode 17 of What's Under Your Hood, reading through a 2001 textbook to build my context for historical knowledge, as well as to see the context within which this was written. 2001, pre-earth-changing events, pre-technological advancements that shaped the world we live in today. So why don't we just jump right back in? We just finished talking about the Buddha and some Hindu gods as well. So we're in ancient India. Again, not quite sure the structure of this book because we talked about ancient India last chapter, and now we're talking about them again this chapter. Just now more cultural, about the religion more in depth. So, let's see. We didn't finish the chapter yesterday, or the section yesterday. We did talk about Asoka, who was a good leader in the... Asoka had stone pillars set up across India announcing laws promising righteous government. On one, he proclaimed, "All people are my children, and just as I desire for my children that they should obtain welfare and happiness, both in this world and the next, so do I desire the same for all people." That is a leader. Okay, so he was a good leader. Division and disunity. After Asoka's death, this is where we left off, so I'm just reviewing, and then I'm going to continue on. After Asoka's death, Maurya power declined. So that's like what is Maurya? Maurya is like let me plug the computer in because it's going to keep dimming. So pardon me for 1 second while I get the plug. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Here in New Jersey, the global warming is very temperate. For a January day, a sunny 55. Okay, so the Maurya Empire is an empire in India, ancient India. Okay, so division and disunity. After Asoka's death, Maurya power declined. By 185 BC, the disunity of the Maurya Empire was shattered as rival princes again battled for power across the northern plain. In fact, during its history, India has seldom been united. In ancient times, as today, the subcontinent was home to many peoples and cultures. Although the Aryan North shared a common civilization, fierce local rivalries kept it divided. Meanwhile, distance and cultural differences separated the peoples of the north and the peoples of the Deccan Plateau in the south. Adding to the turmoil, foreign invaders frequently pushed through mountain passes into northern India, and divided northern kingdoms could not often resist such conquerors. Right, that's where we left off, talking about how the divided north, when the conquerors came over those mountains, since the north was so divided, the north of India was so divided into sects and whatever word they're using to describe the separation of them, they were not able to unite and fight off conquerors, so conquerors had success. Kingdoms of the Deccan. Like the northern plain, the Deccan was divided into many kingdoms. Each had its own capital with magnificent temples and bustling workshops. Unlike the people of the Aryan North, the peoples of the Deccan were Dravidians, with very different languages and traditions. Women, for example, experienced high economic power. I read this, I'm sorry. 4 minutes, 51 seconds just reviewing. This is not efficient work. Women had a lot of power. There would even be queens of regions, of towns, of cities. But I'm going to skip to the next section because I talked about that yesterday. The golden age of the Guptas. Sanjay from CNN. Although many kingdoms flourished in the Deccan, the most powerful Indian states rose in the north. About 500 years after the Maurya, the Gupta dynasty again united much of India. Gupta emperors organized a strong central government that promoted peace and prosperity. Under the Guptas, who ruled from 320 AD to about 550, India enjoyed a golden age, or period, of great cultural achievement. Peace and prosperity. Gupta rule was probably looser than that of the Mauryas. Much power was left in the hands of the individual villages and the city governments elected by merchants and artisans. Faxian, a Chinese Buddhist monk, so Faxian, a Chinese Buddhist monk who visited India in the 400 ADs, reported the mild nature of Gupta rule. The people are very well off, without poll tax or official restrictions. Only those who till the royal lands return a portion of the profit of all land as tax. The kings govern without corporal punishment. Criminals are fined according to circumstances, lightly or heavily. Faxian, a record of Buddhist kingdoms. Trade and farming flourished across the Gupta Empire. Farmers harvested crops of wheat, rice, and sugarcane. In cities, artisans produced cotton cloth, pottery, metalware for local markets and for export to East Africa, the Middle East, and the Southeast Asia. Prosperity of the Gupta India contributed to the flowering in the arts and learning. Advances in learning, the next section. In India, as elsewhere, during this period, students were educated in religious schools. However, in Hindu and Buddhist centers, learning was not limited to region or philosophy. The large Buddhist monastery university in Nalanda, which attracted students from other parts of Asia, taught mathematics, medicine, physics, language, literature, and other subjects. Indian advances in mathematics had a wide impact on the world. Gupta mathematics devised a simple system of writing numbers that is used today. These numerals are now called Arabic numerals because it was Arabs who carried them from India to the Middle East and Europe. Indian mathematics originated in the concept of zero and developed the decimal system of numbers based on 10, which we still use today. Interesting. That's going to be something of note, something to remember. So this came from India, the numbers that we use today. Just like it was of note that the 365 and a quarter day calendar came from ancient China, we can note that the Arabic numerals that we use today came from India, ancient India. Decimal, 10-based concept of zero came from India. Something worth noting. I should get those little sticky tabs that I can put on the inside of the book. I'm gonna get those. Do I have some here? Sticky tabs for your book are a nice organizational tool so that you can call back to places that struck you as important without having to defile the book with pen or pencil. You can just put a little sticky note. By Gupta times, Indian physicians were using herbs and other remedies to treat illness. Surgeons were skilled in setting bones and in simple surgery to repair facial injuries. Wow. Doctors also began vaccinating people for smallpox about 1,000 years before this practice was used in Europe. Wow. Architecture. Rajas sponsored the building of magnificent stone temples. Sometimes cities grew up around temples to house the thousands of laborers working there. Hindu temples were designed to reflect cosmic patterns. The ideal shape was square, inscribed with a circle to symbolize eternity. Buddhists built splendid stupas, large dome-shaped shrines that house the sacred remains of the Buddha or other holy people. The stupas were ringed with enclosed walkways where Buddhist monks slowly walked, chanting their prayers. Magnificent carvings. While stupas were quite plain, their gateways featured elaborate carvings that told stories of the life of the Buddha. He was portrayed with a gentle smile, symbolizing the inner peace of someone who has reached nirvana. Hindu temples, too, were covered with carvings of gods and goddesses, elephants, monkeys, and ordinary people. A familiar figure is the four-armed god Shiva, who dances the world out of existence and then creates it again. Wow. Shiva, who dances the world out of existence and then creates it again. That's intense. Paintings at Ajanta. In the cave temples of Ajanta in western India, Buddhist artists painted rich murals, or wall paintings, recalling Buddhist stories and legends. The murals also revealed scenes of life in Gupta India, from beggars with bowls to sailors at sea to princes courting princesses in lovely flower gardens. Literature. During Gupta times, many fine writers added to the rich heritage of Indian literature. They collected and recorded fables and folk tales in the Sanskrit language. In time, Indian fables were carried west to Persia, Egypt, and Greece. The greatest Gupta poet and playwright was Kalidasa. His most famous play, Shakuntala, tells the story of a king who marries the lovely orphan Shakuntala. Under the evil spell, the king forgets his bride. Under an evil spell, the king forgets his bride. After many plot twists, he finally recovers his memory and is reunited with her. At the end of the play, the king's wise advisor blesses the royal couple. For countless ages may the god and gods, lord of the atmosphere, by plentiful showers secure abundant harvests to your subjects. And you, by frequent offerings, preserve the thunderer's friendship. Kalidasa Kalidasa wrote it, and the story is Shakuntala. Looking ahead, as we wrap up this section, and I think I'm going to dilly-dally and talk a little bit for the next 5 minutes, or maybe I'll talk about Indian classical dance, which is this page here. That's what we'll do. We'll go over that, because I'm not going to start the next section. I'll start fresh on the next section tomorrow. Looking ahead, the Gupta Empire reached its height just as the Roman Empire in the West collapsed. Before long, Gupta India declined under the pressure of weak rulers, civil war, and foreign invaders. From Central Asia came the White Huns, a nomadic people who overran the weakened Gupta Empire, destroying its cities and trade. Once again, India split into many kingdoms. It would seem no great empire like those of the Mauryas and the Guptas for almost 1,000 years. Then, as you will read in a later chapter, another wave of invaders pushed into India and created a powerful new empire. Interesting. I like the history of the Indian subcontinent, the Deccan Plateau. Yeah. Indian classical dance. This is humanities link, is the section of this page. This is the lady, pretty lady, dancing and doing finger gestures, which mean things. Okay? I'm going to read this page, and I'm going to discuss it. We have about 5 minutes, and that'll be that. Thank you for joining us here. Context is everything. What's under your hood? Episode 16. Episode 17? Indian classical dance. Centuries ago, the Hindus of India developed dances to express their religion. Classical Indian dance is an elegant and complex dance. Participants use elaborate body movements and facial expressions to tell religious stories. These unique dances captivate the interest of Indians today, as they have for hundreds of years. I remember my hometown had a vibrant Indian population, and I remember on Facebook posts of classmates, them being dressed in similar garb and doing these dances. And I think that's a good thing, to be connected to your culture. Much of a dance's story is told through mudras. Mudras are complex hand gestures whose meanings the audience recognizes. Some mudras are designed to look like an item they represent. Others are purely symbolic. Lion's face. Ears, nose, and I guess mouth. Fish. No. Fish. Opening of a bracelet. Opening of a bracelet. This woman is performing in the Bharata Natyam dance form. She is wearing radiant, flowing clothes and elaborate gold and silver jewelry typical of this form. Bharata Natyam dancing is named for the sage Bharat, with whom the sage Bharat, with whom the Indian god is said to have shared its secret dance. His name is a combination of the abbreviations for bhava, expressions, raga, melody, and tala, rhythm. So expressions, melody, and rhythm. The three basic parts of dance. Makes sense to me. It takes years to learn 120 basic positions of Bharata Natyam. Thousands of variations and basic moves can tell an infinite number of stories. Most of the dance takes place in one spot, as the dancer constantly bends her knees and moves her feet to complicated rhythms. The bells on her ankles emphasize these movements and accompany the music to which she is dancing. That's pretty interesting. Oh wow, they have an internet link here. I wonder if that's still alive. Use the internet or library resources to research the culture that uses dance as a form of storytelling. Use this information, illustrate and write the caption in your own humanities link. So you get to write your own. That's fun. A little homework assignment. Write your own humanities link. So we got 2 minutes here. Thank you for joining Context is Everything, episode 17. What's Under Your Hood? Context is Everything Media Network. John Michael Monroy, founder, CEO of said network. Blue light in the background, orange and blue combination, colors, gradients. Starting to learn that I like that. Taking out the garbage. Roommate taking out the garbage, clearly. That's a good thing. I probably should have done it earlier. The thing that sticks out to me here, and I'm going to say it clear. I want to build my context as well as provide ambient background noise for those of you who enjoyed that aspect of schooling, sitting in the classroom and kind of just relaxing when a teacher who was in command of the classroom was able to just kind of talk and all that after a nice lunch or after a gym class or something like that, where you're a little bit tired but you're in like that blissful kind of feeling. You just ate, you had some hot fries, you got the turkey sandwich from the cafeteria, a nice lunch lady like gave you an extra quarter or something. You buy a half-cooked cookie that's warm and gooey, and now you go to history class and a teacher does a good job of maintaining control, keeping things veritably engaging, and you can sit and relax. And when that bell finally rings, you think, now I have to go to math, and I don't like math. Or maybe you like math. That's a question for you. But what sticks out to me is Arabic numbers. The concept of zero came from India, spread through I think it said spread through Muslims to Middle East and then eventually to Europe, and now that's what we use. Math. That's what I just talked about. Math. John Michael, context is everything. What's under your hood? 17. Now you gotta get to class. Thank you for watching. Pardon the sweatpants.